লিখে দে সবাই আসার জন্য লিখে দে।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, ইউটিউবে স্ট্রিমটা স্টার্ট করলাম, এবার ইয়েটা স্টার্ট করছি।
কোয়ালিটিটা বাড়ানো। ও এটা এবারে
ইউটিউবে করলাম না, ইউটিউবে চালালাম, এবার চালাচ্ছি। ঠিক আছে স্যার।
হ্যালো,
কি স্যার?
একটা মাইক পেলে
এবার স্যার
লজিটেক
লজিটেক আরো
এইচপিটা
কি স্যার? সাউন্ড দেখি স্যার। এই ঋষভ দা, হিমাদ্রি আদি কিছু বলো না, ওখানে কিছু বলো না।
তার একটা কিছু বলো।
Good morning, everyone. I will request the conference participants,
একবার এই
dignitaries, please take their seats.
বলো
I'm going to now. Thank you.
প্রথম বলতে কিছু দেখতে পাবে না, কি ক্যামেরা নিয়ে এলি ধরোটা কোনো মানে হয়? একটা ভালো ক্যামেরা দেখ ফোনের। হ্যাঁ, ব্যাকগ্রাউন্ডের স্যার কোয়ালিটিটা তো মোটামুটি ঠিক আছে, কিন্তু স্লাইড কিচ্ছু দেখতে পাবে না। এই যে মই খুলছে না তো।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, হ্যাঁ স্যার, অন করে দিন। না তো অন করে দিন না, আমার তরফ থেকে তো স্যার এখানে সব চালিয়ে দিয়েছি, ইউটিউবে চলছে, জুমে চলছে। না না স্যার,
এটা তো দেখো, এটা দেখো। এটা খোল, এটা খোল, এটা খোল।
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
হ্যাঁ, এই দিকটা বেশি দিচ্ছে।
স্যার এবার ক্যামেরা অ্যাঙ্গেলটা ঠিক আছে?
Very good morning, everyone. Myself, Dr. Madhurendra Sinha, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics and Politics, Visva-Bharati. As the organizing secretary, I'm happy to welcome you all to the International Conference on Globalization and Sustainable Development, organized by the Department of Economics and Politics, Visva-Bharati, Visva-Bharati, during 20 to 21 January 2025. Let us start the inaugural ceremony of this conference. It's my privilege to invite the respected dignitaries onto the dais. It's my honor to invite Professor Vinay Kumar Sharen, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Visva-Bharati, Professor C. Veeramani, Honorable Director of the Center for Development Studies, Thiruvananthapuram, Professor Sirajul Islam, respected Principal of Visva-Bharati, Professor Shobho Chakraborty, Head of the Department of Economics and Politics, Professor Mrinal Dutta, Professor of Economics, IIT Guwahati, and Professor Apurva Kumar Chattopadhyay, the conference director, to kindly take their seats on the dais. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request Professor Sirajul Islam, Principal of Visva-Bharati, to felicitate our Honorable Vice Chancellor of Visva-Bharati, Professor Vinay Kumar Sare. Thank you. Now I would like to request Professor Shobha Chakraborty, Head of the Department of Economics and Politics, Visva-Bharati, to felicitate Professor C. Veeramani, Honorable Director, Center for Development Studies, Trivandrum. Thank you, sir. I would request Professor Apurva Kumar Chattopadhyay, Professor of Economics, Department of Economics and Politics, and the Conference Director, to felicitate Professor Sirajul Islam, the Principal, Visva-Bharati.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
I would also request Professor Shobha Chakraborty, Head of the Department of Economics and Politics, to felicitate Professor Mrinal Dutta, Professor of Economics, IIT Guwahati.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, sir. Now let me take the opportunity to felicitate Professor Shobha Chakraborty and Professor Apurva Kumar Chattopadhyay. Thank you all. It's our honor to request Vice Chancellor Professor Kumar Sare to inaugurate the program by lighting the lamp. I request our team to help them.
Sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. I request Professor Kumar Chattopadhyay, Professor of Economics and the conference director, deliver a full briefing about the conference. Respected Vice Chancellor, Professor Kumar, Principal Professor Sirajul Islam, Professor C. Veeramani, Professor Ramanathan, Professor Dutta, invited guests, learned delegates from the administration and academia, my esteemed colleagues and students, a very good morning to one and all. I feel privileged to welcome you all on behalf of the Department of Economics and Politics to the two-day conference on globalization and sustainable development. Globalization, we all know, has ushered in unprecedented changes in the economy, society, and politics. For some, globalization is a powerful force for poverty reduction and has led to improvement in life expectancy and other key dimensions of development. For others, globalization has negative implications and is seen as a source of growing inequality, poverty, unemployment, and environmental degradation. However, there exists almost no debate that development has to be sustainable. This conference has attracted more than 100 paper submissions. After peer review and considering the maximum number of papers which can be accommodated, we selected about 34 papers for physical presentation. We have also accommodated about 22 papers for online presentation. This happened. Professor Veeramani will deliver his keynote address just after this inaugural session. Professor Kaushik Basu will deliver the third Ashok Memorial Lecture on Inequality in India and the world. We will have special lecture by Professor Ram and then a panel discussion this evening. So we will have plenty of food for thoughts during these 2 days. I wish you enjoy academic interactions as well as pleasant environment of Shantiniketan. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Chattopadhyay. Now I request our head of the department, Professor Somo Chakraborty, to welcome the conference delegates on behalf of the department. Good morning to all of you. And it's a very sunny fall outside. It's extremely nice. And in this environment, it's very good. I've been very good to have all of you among us, with me, us, with the department, Honorable Vice Chancellor, and other dignitaries on the stage, on the dais in front of me, and also there's a large attendance online. So I welcome all of you to the Abode of Peace and United Nations World Heritage. So enjoy, I hope, enjoy your stay here and have a very interesting conference. We have this international conference after some time, and we are thankful to the administration, to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, to our Principal, Dean, Professor Sirajul Islam, our Binoy Soren, Vinayda, and we are full of administration that we have got this opportunity after a long time to have this international conference in a big way. And we are really grateful to the delegates who have come from outside, from many places of the country, and grateful to, of course, the resource persons, the honorable speakers here on the stage in front of me, and some of them will be coming. And so far as the theme is concerned, unfortunately, it's a peculiar situation now. Globalization and sustainable development. We'll have this fantastic discussion, set up wherein the world across this globe, maybe at least 3 world wars are being fought. Different places, Syria, Gaza, and Ukraine. And we know, so far as sustainability is concerned, we have conclusively discovered microplastics in our brains and hearts. We know temperature, climate change, and all these things. And our friend, Professor Veeramani, Director, CBS, is here. A good article came last month from CBS, from our another friend, Vinod's questions. Maybe get some response, good discussions, some solutions to how to solve this wars, microplastics, climate change, cultural transformation in this conference. So welcome all of you to this conference, to this Abode of Peace, and have a big actually trying our best so that we don't face any problem. And we have been seeing, and it's like there was no ripple. It's calm and quiet, and we'll organize a fantastic conference. Hopefully, it will go very well. So this, I think, thank you all. Thank you, Professor Chakraborty. Now I would like to request Professor Sirajul Islam, respected principal of Visva-Bharati, to address the delegates on behalf of the Bhavana.
Good morning to all of you. Honorable Vice Chancellor of this University, Professor Veeramani, Professor Veeramani, Professor Dutta, Head of the Department, Chakraborty, Dayas, participants, their students. Really, I'm very delighted in joining in this international ceremony organized by the Department of Economics and Politics of Somalia. On behalf of the Bhavan, once again I welcome you all in this Award of Peace, a noble institution established by Rudra. The topic is really interesting, and globalization, and sustainable development. But the area is so broad, it is very difficult to encompass all the space of this topic. Actually, none of politics. But I have a little bit idea about the notion of globalization. Once upon a time, I was associated with UNESCO. I remember one of the members, Southeastern Bhusan, where we have attended some lectures and also delivered some lectures concerning the modern aspects of globalization and sustainable development. Clearly, it will be globalization started in the middle of 20th century. Many programs from the scholars of globalization in the process. Basically, the ongoing process. The articulation of this term, Indian ethos, scientific ethos, Indian culture, is the instance of this globalization. Our Shastro really is that in I was told Sarvata let the come in the body of the people in our life. And the photo is to God. Let bring the noble thoughts from every corners of the world. And that's started in very primitive ways of human civilization. Thereafter, but before that, this is an ongoing process. Evolution theory is proof that Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens grows through move to integrate one another, which help to strengthen the evolution process of the group. Thereafter, ancestors arrived, and this open invitation has been given to all of the people of the group. And the medieval period, particularly, two routes were trade, commerce, and economic exchange and been done. That was one Silk Road and another was Sea Road. There's an interaction between different parts of the globe, and interaction between particularly with India and other parts of the globe. We started various times in the annals of mankind. In 1991, when it had been implemented in India, the Prime Minister Thiruvananthapuram actually implemented, and that globalization is basically related to privatization, liberalization, and in the same one kind of regulation, so that each and every people of the globe they can extend their economic thoughts, economic different aspects of the development of the globe. But at that time, Manmohan Singh was the finance minister. He took this opportunity and tried to scatter this idea among the masses. But it's very unfortunate that we really concentrate kepada that it has some demerits also. But globalization of sustainable development We are confined to economy. We are confined to politics. We are confined for trade, privatization. That's not an outlook. That's why the globalization of culture, globalization of thoughts, globalization of ethos is this is much more important. But in nature, particularly, you can see that it has only confined basically the economic sector. The economic sector development, no doubt, it is needful for the society. Economic development is not quite sufficient for the sustainable development. In Bengali, there is a word or two connotation. That's all. If finance will not be or economy will not be regulated in a systematic way, it will ruin everything in a destructive process. But then utilize it with modern resources. That's why in Indian law, government then what government wants to government what are taking entangled with government. That's why I would say that sustainable development not only confined to economic sector. Sustainable development encompasses various other aspects. That's the digital world, artificial intelligence, information technology, and industrial revolution. All can be amalgamated and can be utilized for the common sake or common masses. But in nature, we have seen that one section are eliminated for the influence of it for the visible. Economic disparities, even in this slogan, globalization, when it has been actually implemented to all the disparities, economic particularly widened. Few days ago, I have seen that only 80% economy are in the hands of the 8% people of the world. This big disparity is not a good sign. And Mrinal, so far as I know, can entail just to work. So what we can do? Yes, we have the necessity. So look at that. So take on idea is much more important. People, they started education in something taken, education department institution in something taken. At the same time, you also started another campus in Singapore. So that we could look at people can be thankful with this global initiative. This global initiative can be widely much more. That's why not only globalization, in my viewpoint of that one, and most, but my viewpoint, globalization, globally, local, otherwise, large industries, economic sectors, trade organization, they will basically dominate all economic strength of the world, and that will basically will treat it as the mastery of few people on economy, and for the self-interest, large numbers of people will be included, and they will be actually deprived from this level. So sustainable development and globalization we can associate in applying the moral responsibility and moral that is motivation, so that we can implement. Otherwise, some big industrialists, some traders, they will dominate each other. And the last question was, that obviously we have to think about it. I believe that the large number of good participants, stakeholders, and the mechanisms associated with it, we have a fairly expected to discuss all these aspects. I will go on here who to listen. We need the tears. We need to learn. One job. I need to shut up. Then তোমার বাড়ি যাবো আমি বেসরকার আজকে একটু ঘুমাও আমার চোখে হ্যাঁ
সাধু সব
Many thanks, Professor Sirajul Islam, Principal of Vidya-Bhavana. Now it's my humble privilege to request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Vinay Kumar Sharif, to deliver the inaugural address.
Distinguished dignitaries on the distinguished guests, honorable conference participants, ladies and gentlemen. I am really happy and I am deeply honored to stand before you today to inaugurate this international conference on globalization and sustainable development to be organized by the Department of Economics and Politics under Awardee Visva-Bharati. And then who are joining this conference from outside Shantiniketan. I do heartily welcome to Visva-Bharati Shantiniketan. In this era of unprecedented interconnectedness or wild trends becoming global village, where the actions of one nation echo across the globe. The profound impact of globalization present both remarkable opportunities and significant challenges, especially in our quest for sustainable development. Globalization, as we know, has catalyzed remarkable progress in various sectors. It has facilitated the exchange of ideas, cultures, and technology, driving economic growth as well as innovation. Yet, it has also led where the stark inequal and environmental degradation that can accompany the development. Our mission today is to explore how we can harness the benefits of globalization while mitigating its adverse effect to ensure a sustainable future for all. Sustainable development is not a mere visual, It is the imperative of our time. It embodies the principles of equity, inclusivity, and resilience. It calls upon us to balance economic growth with environmental stewardship and social well-being. To achieve this, we must embrace a holistic approach that integrates economic policies with environmental and social concerns. As we embark on this journey, let us remember that sustainable development is a shared responsibility of government, businesses, civil society, and individuals must work hand in hand to create a world where prosperity and sustainability go hand in hand. Let us take this moment to forge a path towards a future that is inclusive, resilient, and sustainable for generations to come. I must note that just after this inaugural session, Professor Veeramani will present the Q&A test, and there will be a special session where Professor Kaushik Basu will deliver Ashok Rudra Memorial lecture on inequality in India and the world. I wish the presentation, discussion, and special and follow-up debate will keep us involved in the area message of globalization and sustainable development. I wish this conference a great success. Thank you, Lord.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much. Our that's end of the inaugural session, and let us start the keynote session. I would like to request Professor Mrinal Professor of Economics, IIT Guwahati, to chair this session. And in this conference, the keynote lecture of this keynote lecture will be delivered by Professor C. Veeramani, Honorable Director, Center for Development Studies, Thiruvananthapuram. So I request the chairman of this session. So please take the charge of this session. Thank you so much.
Sir. Light glow, sir. Light glow.
It's really going to very hard issues. One is on globalization, which is an ongoing process starting for so many years and accentuated in the last 20 years. And that one is the issues of credibility and sustainable development, which have been actually which have also been there for quite some time, but at the same time, The formal operationalization, operational definition has been made. The fact is that sustainability and sustainable development has become part of our life. So respected dignitaries and this gathering over here, so we'll start the first economic session of this conference. The keynote speech to be delivered by Professor C. Veeramani, who is the director of Center for Development Studies, Thiruvananthapuram, and also the professor of Mrinal Institute of Development Research. So he'll be speaking on global value chain and modern industrial policy for perfect growth, jobs, and economic resilience. And there's no denying the fact, everybody knows about that. But today, in today's globalized world, production system has not been localized as such. But there's also been globalized. Okay, so we get to use the product which might be produced by US, but the different companies are produced in one part of the globe. So in that sense, this global value chain system has played a big role in the overall economic and industrial development. Of course, at the center, we will have a lot of implications for overall sustainability and development, region, and improving of not only has been the working on these Basu and more concerned about that. I am very much optimistic that we'll be able to put forward or maybe bring issues which have been associated with the program. So without taking any more time, I'd like to request Dr. Veeramani.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the University and Economics Department for inviting me here. This is a really beautiful campus and historically very important. And all of us from the south and north, both Visva-Bharati, Champion taken to come here and to this. I got that opportunity and thank you so much for this. Now, okay, so the topic of the discussion today, just wanted to start with some background that we always hear these days about after Donald Trump's election is in the US, his presidency is coming, and even during his earlier term, the discussion about international trade, globalization in general, international trade, migration, all these issues have got a lot of attention in media, newspaper, television debates, and all that. And then already there was geopolitical tensions at that time, and there was a trade war between the United States and China. And then COVID-19 happened. Later, the Russia-Ukraine war happened. So there are all these developments that have been taking place during the last several years, which all led to a lot of debate about the role of globalization, global economic integration for various issues. And then there was discussion about supply chains, reshoring versus friendshoring, as opposed to offshoring. Offshoring means production activities getting carried out in countries outside the border of the country.
Like for example, United States, you have the company called Apple, which manufactures mobile phones. But the actual manufacturing doesn't take place in the United States. It used to take place earlier in China. Now a part of it is happening in India. So like that, in most of the manufactured sectors, industries, production processes are globally fragmented. This is called offshoring. As opposed to offshoring, there is discussion about now reshoring, that is bringing back manufacturing facilities, manufacturing activities back home. And friendshoring. Friendshoring means doing these activities in friendly countries and all that. So that is one level of discussion. Then there is also discussion about the relative role of domestic value chain as opposed to global value chain. And in countries like India, developing countries like India, there is also discussion that in this context, there are some new opportunities that may arise because of what is called a supply chain diversity. China plus one strategy, that companies are looking for alternative ways of doing their production, diversifying their supply chains away from China rather than depending only on China. So developing countries like India are looking this also as an opportunity. So there is tension, like whether this is leading to some issues, or like what are the gains and costs associated with this. So in that context, I am going to talk some of these issues related to this broader debate, but focusing in the Indian context from a policy perspective. What should be the strategy for the Indian government, and what should we do in this context? So that is basically the objective of this presentation. And I will start with some stylish start the talk with some certain stylish facts about India's performance in global trade, and then go to some later get into some issues. So this gives the So this gives some broad trends and patterns in growth performance. You can see in terms of GDP growth, pre-reform, post-reform, exports, imports, foreign direct investment, how growth performance have changed after India opened up. We see that in terms of all these indicators, India has done well after opening up. Right? So there is no doubt about that. Now, and this means that basically these trade openness go hand in hand. Trade openness and FDI openness generally go hand in hand with the overall GDP growth performance. This is a broad picture. Now, I wanted to show some of the recent trends in India, which is with respect to tariff rates, import tariff rates. India had one of the highest import tariff rates in early 1990s. It was above 100% average tariff rates. And as part of the reform process, we gradually reduced it. And you can see that a green line falling significantly. And by 2008, Indian tariff rates reached the real low level, which is comparable to that in ASEAN countries, which are like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, these about 10%. But after that, you can see that there is a slight increase start post and then look at that now. Even though it's not a major right, but the tendency is towards more protectionism. That is what is happening in the Indian context. And you can also see in this graph of the Indian banks can go that our other neighboring countries. Here, what is shown is China and Vietnam. The reason why China is shown is that China's remarkable success in the last few decades. Vietnam is so big, and recent times Vietnam is doing it. So, that's why I take these two countries for comparison. One side, weighted public time, inward weighted time. There also we see that Indian time rates are going up. Now, there is a tendency towards greater protectionism when it comes to international trade. So on the FDI front, India has opened up more in recent times. India has opened up, foreign direct investment. Multinationals are coming to India. So you see these two contrasting type of trends. On trade, it is becoming more protectionist with the increasing tariff. On FDI, we are open. Now, as an economist, what would be the implication of this? Generally, it would lead to a phenomena where what is called tariff jumping type of foreign direct investment. Why tariff jumping? Because multinational companies know that if they wanted to export their products to India, they have to, pay the tariffs, the higher tariffs. Therefore, the alternative is to, instead of exporting their products, the alternative is to come and set up plants here and produce for the domestic market. And it's attractive. Indian market is attractive because it is huge. So multinational companies will come and set up their plant, but their objective is to sell in the domestic market. They will not use Indian production facilities to export from India, mainly because when your tariffs are high, tariffs particularly for intermediate goods are high, multinational companies cannot use India as a base for selling for the or producing for the global market, because producing for the global market requires import of intermediate parts, components, etc. from various countries of the world. But if you put higher tariffs for those products, it will not be cost effective, or they will not have that competitiveness to produce for the world market. But they can sell in the domestic market because the domestic market is protected with the higher tariffs. So this is what would be the natural incentive for multinational companies, and we see that there are foreign companies coming to India, but they are not exporting. They are not exporting to the world. They are basically selling it in the domestic market. So this policy of high tariff with the free labor FDI will not help us in terms of we exporting our product from India to other countries. So that doesn't help. So if you want the multinational companies to come and set up plants with an objective of exporting from India, then tariff rates to go. So we don't, because they are operating in global markets. They don't produce everything in one country. They produce and specialize only in certain activities in one country. The remaining things have to come from elsewhere. Now, if you have higher tariffs, that will not happen. So that is one implication. And you see that trade restrictive, the FDI restrictiveness index for India is very low compared to that in other countries, and also FDI openness. FDI openness if you compare India with China, India's FDI openness is even higher than that of China. Even though the absolute FDI value that China gets is several times higher than that of India, FDI as a proportion of GDP, India has higher proportion. That is what we can see here in the graph on the right hand side. Now, if you see the export performance during the post-reform period, Indian exports have grown faster than world exports throughout the post-reform period, both for merchandise and services. So you can see the India graph is the blue one, and the red one is the world, and the blue one is always bigger than the red one throughout the post-reform period. In the recent times, as India started increasing tariffs, we see that exports also is not performing well. You can see the last graph, with a negative or a very low growth rate. Now, in this context, this is a broad context. Now, what is the story so far? Story so far is that global economic integration has helped India in terms of achieving certain economic objectives. Higher GDP, higher exports, higher FDI. There are issues, but these three things go together. So that is the main story. Now, focusing now on the issue, on the topic of discussion here, which is global value chain. I wanted to take some time to explain this concept because this is used by people in a way that is sometimes not properly, without properly understanding the term, the concept. So when you talk about the global value chain, there are two types of global value chain participation. One is called the backward global value chain participation or backward GVC. The other one is forward GVC. The difference between the two is that in the case of backward GVC, a country imports parts and components and then manufacture something using imported parts and components and then export that product back. So there are at least two border crossing. One is that you are importing parts and components, add value, then export it back. So that is called backward GVC participation. For example, in recent times, India is exporting mobile phones. And these mobile phones are basically assembled in the sense that the parts and components are imported. A lot of parts and components are imported from other countries. And then companies like Foxconn assemble these products for other companies like Apple. Apple itself doesn't do any manufacturing. So they do only R&D, design of the products, and a higher value added activity. Actual assembly is subcontracted to companies like Foxconn. So they manufacture mobile phone using imported components and parts, and then export it back to other countries. So that is an example of backward GVC participation. So this is highly import intensive. So you import parts and components from other countries. The other one is called forward GVC participation. Forward GVC participation means, for example, from a developing country's perspective, forward GVC participation means India, for example, exports parts and components to other countries. Like, for example, India export iron ore to China, and then China uses that iron ore to make steel, and then export that steel to Korea. Then it is called a forward GVC participation. Because as a result of this, what is happening is that there are value addition taking place in India. When China is exporting steel from that country to Korea, because China used Indian iron ore, value addition is taking place in India. So that is called forward GVC participation. There also there is two border crossing, at least two border crossing. First, iron ore is exported from India to China, one border crossing. Then using that iron ore, steel is produced and exported to Korea. That is the second border crossing. So whenever they use the term global value chain, it always means that at least two border crossings should take place. Then only it is conceptually correct to use the term global value chain. But most of the time people don't use it. They use it rather in a more loose way without clearly defining it. So, but in practice, there will be multiple border crossings, not just two, but minimum there should be two border crossings, whether you think in terms of backward or forward. Now, the policy dilemma for the policy makers, whether to be part of this global value chain, where the disadvantage is that everything is not produced in our home country. It is globally fragmented. So you get a share of what is being produced total in the for the products. You get one share. The remaining share goes to other countries. So that is the cost. But what is the gain? Gain is the global market. So there is a trade-off here. You get a smaller slice of the pie, but you get a share which is a larger pie, right? So you can get a pizza which is a whole pizza, but a very small, what is called pocket pizza. You can get that, right? This pocket pizza means like a coin size pizza. That is full pizza you get. Versus a slice of the pizza. A slice of the much bigger pizza. Which is bigger? Is the pocket pizza bigger or the slice of the larger pizza is bigger? So what I wanted to show here with evidence is that a slice of large pizza is bigger than the full sized pocket pizza. So this is what the confusion is. So policy makers always think that if you bring value change domestically, you gain from it. Yes, you gain. You get 100% of whatever you produce. But the fact is that in India, even though we are a large country in terms of population, we account for 17.5% of global population. But we account for very small share of global GDP, even now. Right? So therefore, Indian market is understanding that we are a large market is true in terms of number of people, but not true in terms of the overall GDP. It's not true. We are not a large country in terms of GDP relative to the world. Yes, we are a large country in terms of population, but that doesn't really matter. What really matters is the purchasing power of the people, right? If all people are poor, they do not have the purchasing power. How can you say that we are a large country? So what we are losing now in this misleading narrative is that we are a large country is the fact that we are thinking in terms of only the size of the population. We are not thinking in terms of the purchasing power of the population. Our per capita income is still very low. Right? We are still a lower middle income country with low per capita income. So that is where I am talking about the slide of the picture. So if you are part of the global value chain and part of the global value chain, yes, you will not be able to get 100% of whatever that you produce. You will not get. But because you are part of the large global market, the share that you get in absolute terms is going to be much higher, which I wanted to show with evidence, both econometric evidence as well as simple, straightforward summary statistics. So I am not looking up anything from here. Right? The econometrics you don't have to trust because sometimes econometrics can give all kind of results depending upon what method you use, what data you use. Don't trust it. Right? Just trust simple summary statistics which anybody can go and see. So I give more importance to make my story. Okay. So we know that why are we talking? So there are two types of global value. I already defined it. One is backward, the other one is forward. Now, which type of GBC should in India enter into? Whether it should be backward and forward or forward. There also there is a lot of money. The confusion is that people think that this backward GBC participation is a bad thing. Why? Because you import everything from all over the world. You do simple assembly. So you are at the lower end of the global value chain. You don't get much from doing assembly. And all higher share goes to advanced countries. So it is not a good thing. Assembly is the bad thing. That is what generally the understanding of the policy makes. Because backward GBC means you are doing basically assembling the product. Forward participation, it is good. Yes, it is good, provided you are producing higher value-added components and parts. Right now, for example, Apple, I said the example of Apple. Apple is a US company, and the US headquarters of Apple does R&D, they do design, and they do manufacture high-end chips, parts, components, etc. So all these high-end activities are taking place in the richer country. Assembly is what is happening in the poor country. So therefore, people think that if you do forward participation, it is good. But the problem is that is it possible for a poor country to enter into forward participation? Right now, because your specialization depends upon where you have a comparative advantage based upon our textbook reading. The comparative advantage is determined by your relative factor alone. So a country like India is, we know that from the very basic textbook, text problem model, For a country like India, a comparative advantage doesn't lie in skill intensive, R&D intensive type of activities. Because our relative endowments are low skill labor. Large majority of our people are very low skill. Now, the question is, where should we focus our activities? Should we focus in activities where our people are not there? In terms of relative share, right? The large majority of our population have either a primary education or very low level of education. So in that context, where does the comparative advantage lie? It lies in low skilled labor intensive production activities, which includes assembly. So when assembly happens here, like mobile phones are assembled here, who is the beneficiary? The beneficiary are these low skill with low education. In India now mobile phone assembly is taking place. Who is the beneficiary? Mostly women workers. They just pass out from their 12th class or 10th class, they get a job in these assembly firms. Of course, they don't get a very high salary, right? Like a software engineer. They get 20,000, 25,000, but that salary, whatever they get, is far, far better than the alternative that is available. The alternative that is available to them is to either remain unemployed at home or go to their farm, contribute nothing, or get involved in some kind of informal type of activities. That is the alternative available. Compared to those alternatives, working in a factory, assembling mobile phone is a better option from their perspective, not from our perspective. We think that it's exploited, but not from their perspective. They choose it because they think their situation is better doing that. Another good example is the Bangladesh textile sector, apparel. The apparel manufacturing from Bangladesh is entirely based on global value chain, backward global value chain. Right? They don't produce their own textile, the cotton there. They import cotton yarn from India, Pakistan, and manufacture apparel there using imported yarn. That's what they do. Who is the beneficiary? The beneficiary predominantly is Bangladeshi women workers. 90% of people who work in garment factories are women. Which type of woman? Okay, poor background. That makes a difference in their life. So, in our kind of narrative, saying that we should get into higher value added R&D intensive, skill intensive, that process, what we are losing sight of is the imperative of creating jobs for the really low skill. We are ignoring that class altogether, right? So that is where there is an opportunity. That is why we should not think the backwards industry participation as a bad thing, even though it is assembly. Let it happen. That is the way China got into global value chains in the 1990s and in the 1980s. They got into assembly first. It was large scale assembly in export processing zones. That's what they did. They imported everything. They invited multinational companies to do assembly in China. Over time, what has happened is that an ecosystem has developed there, which led to expansion of activities within the country. It was not a starting point, who started with higher value added items and then get into value chain. That is not the starting they followed. They allowed anybody to come, do assembly, export to the world market. So large scale migration happened from rural areas to the urban area. People who were unemployed earlier came and worked in this factory, obviously with the low wages compared to the Western standard. There are labor issues, there are human rights, labor rights issues, and all those things are there. That's a sacrifice one generation made, but today's generation is better off. Today we are talking about China. The issue is high wage rate. High skill products are coming. Technologically, they have become far advanced. But what was the route? What was the path they had taken? They had taken this labor intensive path, which is according to what we study in basic textbook model in international trade, the extraordinary model that they practice. Another country that is practicing it now is Vietnam, and you can see what is happening. They are creating jobs for all their people. The unemployment problem is completely eradicated from China. There is no number. Of course, there are issues related to sustainability, environmental issues. And I want to say that they are handling that issue far better than India. Despite the fact that they are more globally integrated, Beijing is a far more livable city than Delhi. And Beijing at some point had an environmental issue, pollution issue, but not today. They are handling that issue. So this question that this will be disastrous for environment also need to be revisited. Right now, is Delhi's problem, pollution problem because of globalization? It's not globalization that is leading to the problem in Delhi. Right? It's completely something else. So, there are these kind of success stories, and in India also there is a recent success story which is in mobile phones, that our export of mobile phones have gone up through again backward integration. I have estimates to show that this has benefited a large number of people in terms of getting their first entry into formal manufacturing sector, which has enabled for particularly for women workers in mostly in South India. Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh. There is this thing happening. If you go to the factories, you will come back and say that, oh, this is all very bad. Very low wages are given, they have to work overtime. Yes, they are, all this is true. But then tell me what is the alternative for them? What is the alternative? Is there a better alternative? The countries which had gone this path had to go through that phase at some point. China had gone through that phase. Vietnam is going through that. But then this is the path that would help people, the countries to eradicate poverty, absolute poverty, and later on move up in the value chain. So that is what happens also in South Korea. South Korea in the 1960s, in terms of per capita income, was almost similar to India or below India per capita in the 1960s. Now, where is South Korea? Right? They started exporting labor-intensive products, textiles. That is where they expanded initially, and then got into global value chains, electronics, all automobiles. All these successful came later. China did the same thing. I will show later in some graphs later that Japan also did the same. Right? So the countries in East Asia which have successfully industrialized, eradicated poverty, had followed a particular kind of structural transformation, where initially labor-intensive manufacturing expanded. Now, what is the way you can expand in labor-intensive industrialization? In the current context, it is through the global value chain. From developing country perspective, it is the backward link to global value chain. The forward link to global value chain for developing countries means basically you are exporting products like iron ore to other countries where steel is manufactured and then exported. Do you want to do that? That is not very desirable. The desirable one is you import parts and components, assembled products here. Initially, it will be low value added, but you can create an ecosystem over time where you move up in the value chain. And in global value chain, we talk about a smile curve. The smile curve means at the lower end of the smile curve, it is a U curve, U-shaped curve. The lower end, bottom part of the smile curve is what is called low end activity, where value added per unit is very low. But then the two sides of the smile curve, you can go up. This is called upgrading within global value chain, or moving up in the value chain. So that is possible only if you first enter into the lower part of the U curve. And with that, it would be possible for you to move up in the value chain. So, so these are some of the issues, and in the Indian context, extent of global value chain participation, we see this graph here. On the left hand side is the backward GDP participation of India, and compare that with China. So what is the measure used here? The measure used here to understand backward participation is foreign value added as a share of gross exports. Now, if a country is engaged in backward GDP participation, its foreign value added share in gross export will go up. Why it go up? It goes up because backward GDP participation means you are importing a lot of parts and components from other countries. So when you are importing parts and components from other countries, it means foreign value added, not domestic value. So your gross export consists of two things, foreign value added and domestic value added. So the foreign value added means what is generated in other countries because of your export. So if we are exporting mobile phones, a lot of that parts and components came from other countries, then foreign value added will be very high. Correct? So you see that for Vietnam in manufacturing, 48% of what they export is foreign value added. That is imported from other countries. Only 52% is domestic value. For India, the foreign value added is 17%. Remaining 83% is domestic value added. This is what is the comparison, and India is actually reducing our tariff rates have gone up. Earlier it was 25.5%, now it has gone down to 17.2%. Now, what is the implication of this? The implication can be seen, like I said earlier, forget econometrics. You don't trust econometrics. This is a simple, straightforward data from anybody can go and verify. Official data. Right? So what is shown here, the left-hand side is the backward linked participation, GDP participation in one industry. This is the manufacture of computer, electronic and optical products and electrical equipment, electronic industry. Look at India and Bangladesh comparison. Or not Bangladesh, Vietnam. For Vietnam, the foreign value added in these industries are almost 50%. That means when they export $100 million worth of goods, $50 million was imported. Only the remaining $50 million was domestic value added. For India, this is a quarter. For them, it is half. Foreign value added is half, 50%. For India, it is 25%. So we feel very happy. Why? Because we are not so much dependent on foreign countries for manufacturing electronics. We are self-sufficient. Because 25% only we import to make electronics. Whereas Vietnam depend on foreign sources 50%. We feel happy looking at the left-hand side of the graph. But look at the right hand, and that is what we should now look. On the right hand side, what is shown is what is the absolute value added in this sector in Vietnam, and what is the absolute level of gross exports in Vietnam, which is several times higher than that of India. For an ordinary person, people, which one matters, the right one, right-handed graph, or the left-handed graph? For policy maker, it's a left-handed graph. They feel, oh, we are self-sufficient. We are not an import-dependent economy. In this sector, we are less import dependent compared to Vietnam. What is the result? What I said earlier, pocket size pizza versus a slice of a larger pizza. They get a slice of a Vietnam get a slice of a larger global pizza. We get the full pizza of the small domestic economy. So, in terms of absolute level of domestic value added, Vietnam gets much more than India. This is what we are losing out when we are too much obsessed with what is called domestic value chain type of story. Right? Self-sufficiency to a certain extent is good in strategic sectors. When we are talking about the sectors where we have to depend on ourselves in critical times, it's important to have that, like the defense or strategic areas. But in other areas where it doesn't really matter, why should we be so obsessed with the self-sufficiency? Then this is the cost that we pay. Right now, this is not the story just in electronics. This is the story in almost all products. Even in apparel,
Vietnam is exporting more than India. In apparent, Bangladesh is exporting more than India. Small countries exporting more than a large country like India, even in our traditional industry, not just in modern sectors, even in traditional industries. What is the reason? The reason is that they are part of the global economy, global value chain. We are not. This is one of the main reasons. And now why we are not? These are larger policy issues. I don't have time to discuss all that. So there are evidence to show this. I don't want to get into. There are different papers on that. Now I just wanted to show another graph to show that whether this is feasible in today's world. This will be the question that will come. Is it solved true only in the past, or is it something that can be replicated now? Okay? There is all these global tensions, all these geopolitical vulnerabilities, all these issues are there. Now, is it something that you can now replicate? This is the question. Now, to answer that question, we have to look at a very long-term perspective of what is going on in these sectors where global value chains are very important. So what I do is that I select those sectors which I call network products. Why network products? Because global production networks are very important there. And look at this the situation in this sector in a very long-term perspective. Long-term perspective means starting from 1960. See how things are changing. So what I see here is that look at this graph. This is what is called the wild geese flying pattern. Wild geese flying pattern is, you know that when Republic Day, you see that aeroplanes flying in formation, perfect V shape. This is what is happening in this sector, a V shape. This is what is called the flying geese pattern. This is the model that explains what is going on in these sectors where global value chains are involved. So look at the inverted, perfectly shaped inverted V pattern for China. So the V pattern, what is shown in this graph, the world market share of different countries. For Japan, its world market share went up from 1960s, which was already very high, 6%, to more than 25% by mid 80s. But once it reached the peak of 25%, they started withdrawing. You can see the V curve going down, right? The blue curve going down. So once they started withdrawing in that sector, other countries entered. Now, when they wanted to enter, Japan provides the push, the support in terms of technology and skill and all this. Multinational companies relocate from Japan to neighboring East Asia. They give the support. That is why it is called flying geese. In the flying geese, the understanding is that they all together moving, in the direction. One supports the other in that flight. So that is what is happening. So other countries like China and you can see the red graph going up for China. Their share went up as Japan's share went down. Now China reached already, you can see it's an inflection point. It has reached a peak. It started withdrawing. So when they start withdrawing, other countries have an opportunity. Now, which is the country which has an opportunity which can match China? It is not Vietnam. Vietnam is a small country. It cannot completely replace China. It is India. Vietnam is benefiting. You see in this graph, Vietnam's graph is going up, the green graph. Where is Indian graph? The Indian graph is below still, much below. We are not understanding this opportunity, this dynamics, which is happening in the global trade. We are still pessimistic. We are trade pessimistic. We are protectionist. We are not understanding how this can actually transform what is called the structural transformation story can be changed by absorbing surplus labor from agriculture and informal sector to the modern sector, the Lewisian transformation that we have been talking about. There is an opportunity to achieve that Lewisian transformation. But the other countries have done it in East Asia, not us. So now this graph shows split that graph into two parts. This is the same graph, but instead of talking total products, we split the products into two components. One is the final assembled products, and the other one is parts and components. Like final mobile that we go and buy. That is one thing. The other one is components used to manufacture mobile phone, needed to manufacture mobile phone. So when you split the total into these two categories, final product which households buy versus parts and components like chips or high-end parts and components, what is the pattern? You see that in China, look at the graph for China. We have seen earlier that China is withdrawing. Where is it withdrawing? Is it withdrawing in final production or in assembled manufactured products, or is it in parts and components? They are withdrawing. The blue line there is the final product. The red one is the parts and components. It is the blue that is going down, not the red. The red is going up. So that means that they entered into parts and components production. They are withdrawing from assembly. That is where. And that is where an opportunity exists for a country like Vietnam. And India also has an opportunity for there. And so that is what I wanted to say. Now I will just conclude by saying that my talk also, that the topic also included industrial policy. Now world over, there is a re-emergence of industrial policy. And mostly this is happening in the advanced countries. Like advanced countries are supporting their industries with huge subsidies, with the idea that you can get that reshoring kind of idea, that you will get that manufacturing back home. To encourage that, they are spending huge amounts of subsidies for the companies to come back. Even India is doing that. We have the PLI scheme and all that. Now the question is, what type of industry policy is appropriate in this context? Now, if you use the old type of industrial policy to, like the import substitution tax, it will not work, because then you are basically trying to catch or get a hold of a small pizza, of a local pizza, right? And you want to get a larger slice of the global pizza. If you want that, then the industrial policy has to be appropriately redesigned to exploit that new emerging opportunities. I have a lot to say there, but I don't want to get into that now. So with this, I will conclude here, and will be very happy to take questions. And there is much more than this here in the presentation, but I will stop.
Sadhu.
Associated with I hope you are clear why this is not focused on the forward global value chains, whether we can concentrate on network and we have already given a lot of examples, taking the cases of South Korea, Vietnam, India, as to policies for focus on for the future. Working to normal growth so I once again thank Dr. Veeramani for enlightening us on this important issue associated with the globalization of global. And with this, I conclude this image. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Veeramani, Professor Rudra. So now this is the time for a very short tea break, but before that, we have one group photo session. So I will request the delegates to join the group photo session, followed by a short tea break. And very soon, by 11:45, we start the third Ashok Rudra Memorial Lecture. Thank you so much.
সায়নদা, আচ্ছা বলছি যে এই সময় কি একবার দেখবো?